Alright guys, welcome to another episode of Mentor Asia Pacific. We are here at the Westin. We're going to be filming a good friend of mine, Kevin Hashimoto, and we're going to be talking about what he does and what his story is. Once again, I'm Alvin Sangha. I'm your host for the show. So, Kev, thanks for being on the show.
Yes.
Good to see you, brother. Thanks for
Happy
coming on. So let's start. Share one thing that most people might not know about you.
One thing that most people wouldn't know. I think if we're friends or close friends, then you would know this, but I ask a lot of questions. Like when I meet people for the first time, or I'm just naturally curious about something, I ask a lot of questions.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. Why do you think you ask a lot of questions?
It's the best way to learn about something. Just through a natural, conversation, you're able to learn so much about a person because you're asking direct questions. You're able to get direct answers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, here, elaborate what your story is and kind of just go where you want to go with that.
It's crazy. Okay. Yeah. So my name is Kevin Hashimoto. I'm 29 years old. Born and raised on the island of Guam for the majority of my life. I lived out in the States for a couple of years. I'm half Japanese, half Filipino. Graduated high school in 2007 and went to college right after that. I think going to college that first year was the first time I really started questioning life. Like, why do we need to do that? Like, why do we work for 40 years? Why? Like, just questioning everything, just started questioning things. I'll give you an example. The first couple years of college, for me, they were talking about different careers and professions to pursue. And it's interesting how they say it's not about the money, but when they talk about careers and professions, they talk about the money a lot, like the benefits, the salaries, the progression of the salary throughout the years. So, but for me, I was working at a restaurant at that time, always independent, especially if no one really had to teach me the value of money, because when you grow up without it, you understand the difference between having it and not having it. So early on, I've had, because of life experiences, early on, I already was pretty independent. Dropped out of college at 20, started my first business at 21. Good to go to Guam's first restaurant delivery service, and that was tough. Can you imagine a 21-year-old walking into a restaurant, booking a meeting with the restaurant owner or the general manager for a big franchise, and then pitching the idea that we can do business together? That, like, just kind of reflecting back on that, it's pretty proud of myself for being able to do something like that at 21. I think people always ask, like, biggest asset, and I think ignorance for a lot of entrepreneurs is the biggest asset, because truly to be an entrepreneur it doesn't make sense. The risk just greatly outweighs the reward. I think sometimes, in the beginning especially, the risk was crazy. And I think I didn't really understand the risk I was taking while pursuing that. It just made sense for me. And yeah, I think the last few years have been pretty crazy. So starting good to go at 21, 22, at the same time getting involved with networking opportunities, really fast forwarding my life. That's when I started questioning things like, they were teaching a lot of things in school that just didn't make sense to me. I didn't want to go to school for 4, 5, 6 years in college and pay for that, graduate with college debt, work for 40 years of my life just to retire at 60, 65, 70 years old to an income that wasn't really good enough anyway. So when I'm talking to people like this, when I'm meeting people for the first time, people like who have just a lot of success, who have achieved a lot of success in their lives, I love asking them the question, if you can go back in time, what would you do differently, right? Because we're still there, we're still there in our 20s, we can still adjust and pivot and do something different. And that is probably the second best way to learn, is from other people's experience. First is from your own experience, and second from other people's experience. So if people just took their time to step back and kind of look at life and look at what was going on, I think people would just question and maybe reconsider what they're doing. For example, the idea of buying a brand new car and then just so you can go to work to pay for that brand new car, you know what I mean? Or go get a mortgage, get a job to get a mortgage, you can pay for a house that's empty all day because you're going to work to pay for that house. Like stuff like that, early on in my 20s, I kept saying to myself, there has to be a better way. And yeah, now I'm 29 years old and we're kind of just taking it to the next level.
So talk to me about any of those failures that you might want to elaborate on. What was difficult? I know you talked about good to go.
Yeah, I think man, there's so much. Like there's so many failures, so many disappointments along the way, so many. And going back to that, it's because of the ignorance, right? I didn't know like the risks I was taking on during those times. But to be more specific, yeah, during that time when it was just me and Good to Go, like it was just me running that business. We're talking about working 12, 14-hour days, and I'm not just repeating things I've heard from videos, but that was it. You know, I would work from 10 to 3, grind from 3 to 5, open up the office again from 5 to 10 p.m., stay back to do accounting and get ready for the next day. So easily, yeah, 12, 14 hours a day, every day for the first 3-4 years. It was like that. And there was times where I'll be driving my standard Honda Civic, manual windows, the most basic car, and you know, short staff, driving, doing deliveries while having my laptop on my passenger seat, taking in orders with my cell phone, driving standard, and popping that order in on my laptop. Like stressful, like so stressful. And driving and taking an order from the customer, and then calling the restaurant to place that order. It was, yeah, no, like if you weren't there, it would be very hard to understand how crazy difficult that was.
So Kev, speak to me about like who were some of your mentors, some people who showed you along the way, good or bad.
Okay, I think this question, really big question, because I think we can draw inspiration, mentorship from like books, from audiobooks, from movies, right? Especially because of YouTube. Like watching Gary Vaynerchuk videos, Grant Cardone videos, Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy videos, those really, when I had no one else to talk to or like get info or inspiration from, I would tap into that source. And being more specific with people here on Guam that have really directly impacted my life and helped me out, who I can call and just walk, talk problems through with. Early on was probably one of the first ones was Joey Garrido. He was one of my earlier business partners with Good to Go. He definitely had a huge impact on how I carried myself throughout the years. So he had a really big impact. One of the best salesmen, Dave McConkey, James Dollahan. There's so many.
But if you were to drop advice, 1 or 2 pieces of advice, what would you give? What would you say to a striving or beginning entrepreneur?
Oh man, there's a lot. But I think even if I give this advice, it'll be very hard to, unless you're a special individual, to really understand what I'm saying here. But experience as much as you can. And with that, you're gonna fail and make mistakes, but that's really the only best way to learn. And if you're able to block out the criticism, the hate that you're gonna get along the way for it, if you're trying something new, doing something different, you'll realize at the end of that you'll be way ahead of everyone else who's just sitting on the sidelines criticizing you. Just to clarify, not knocking college at all. I think education is super important. I think that's a big misunderstanding. I think people like, oh, you dropped out of college, you don't care for education. Like that couldn't be farther from the truth. I value education extremely. It's just not the system of which, like how everything's been conducted right now, the traditional education system of going to school. I think it's an overpriced product for the value people are getting from it. If you're the rare exception of like you found a career, like you found a career that you just love, you would do it without income, like you love that. Like to me, that is one of ultimate standards of success. Like that's the metric of which I gauge success. It's not really money, because if you're gauging your success based on the money you make, that's a really sad metric. I think if you're determining your success based on your happiness, like how happy you are doing what you're doing, that's it. Like you're winning. You're winning in life when you're doing something you just genuinely love.
All right, guys, we're gonna thank Kev for being on the show. We're gonna move on to another episode sometime soon, but stay tuned for our next one. Take care. Thank you. Thanks guys for tuning into Mentor Asia Pacific. Once again, I'm Alvin Sangha. Check out all our social media, that's going to be linked down below. Stay tuned, more mentors are to come. We're going to be releasing a mentor every week. And please leave a comment down below for any mentors that you'd like to be featured on the channel, any business professional, entrepreneur, or anybody that you believe is inspiring and can provide to be a mentor for the youth of Guam. Until next time, thank you very much. Sangha out.